people think that freedom is going to just be taken away in one chop, and it's not. It's death by 1,000 cuts, which is why it's important to stand up against mask mandates, vaccine mandates, and so many other things, because those are the 1,000 cuts.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Oto Gomes Crypto Show. I'm your host, Oto Gomes. And today we have an amazing individual, Sheriff Mark Lamb. This guy has just gone above and beyond the call of duty as a sheriff to step into his individualism, into his power, and truly speak out about the inconsistencies and the indoctrination that's happening on a massive scale. Sheriff Lamb was elected in 2016 as Pinal County's 24th sheriff to lead Pinal County's finest, with a vision to better the status of law enforcement in Pinal County and ultimately be an example for other agencies in Arizona and the United States of America by doing the following: foster positive working relationships with county officials, provide financial transparency to establish a realistic budget, improve deputy pay to retain and recruit quality employees, continue to crack down on criminal activity with a focus on stopping the drug flow into Pinal County, change the perception of law enforcement with our communities. He is leading by example. And with that, I welcome Sheriff Mark Lamb. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode. Sheriff Lamb, thank you so much for being just a loud, powerful voice in this movement. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Otto. I appreciate it. I appreciate the intro, too. Look, we were just talking a bit about it before we got started. I love freedom more than anything. And so that's what I'm basing it on. And I want to be on the right side of history. So
I love it. And it's very clear, right? It's very clear.
Yeah.
The sides right now, one and the other, and going, whoa, that's fear. That's love. I wonder what I want.
That is the truth. You know, people ask me, they're like, Sheriff, is it hard nowadays to be the sheriff with everything going on and you having to make such strong stances? I was like, honestly, it's easier now than ever because the line is very defined for me. You know, I talked about it when you and I were at the same event a couple of weekends ago, and it's made it very clear for me. So I know exactly where I stand, and I refuse to cross the line, nor do I want people to cross the line onto my territory.
I love your perspective, and you have such a groundedness with it and how you present yourself and how you speak. I really want to know your past and your journey towards this point. So just tell me a little bit about it. What got you to this point now? What was your red pill moment that really shifted you and shook you out of that matrix?
You know, I think I've always been red-pilled. I mean, I was raised, my dad was a graduate of Thunderbird Business College, which is an international business school. We spent a lot of time overseas. I was born and raised in Hawaii, lived in the Philippines, lived in Panama, lived in Argentina. I've traveled to other countries. And at an early age, I got a real appreciation for what America is, what it means, what freedom is, and really how much of the land of opportunity it is. Unfortunately, a lot of Americans don't know this because they've never lived outside this country. But that was just ingrained in me at a young age. My dad was a patriot. He loved America. He didn't like big government. And so these are things that were instilled in us. And, you know, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We're very big on freedom, constitution, family, our ability to worship God. And so all of those things have kind of just been in me from the time I was born and raised. And so as the world has gotten a little bit crazier and crazier, I have felt the need to get out, run for office, get into law enforcement, and now obviously to take strong stances and give the people courage that they're not alone, there are people out there willing to stand up and fight for what they love, because it's the same thing that I love.
I love that. Yeah. Finding that commonality and that common ground, right. In connection. And that's something I believe we've sort of lost sight of is finding the common ground. If anything, we've done the opposite. We found what's the difference? What's the difference? How are we divided? And I love that your heart is in, no, how can we find the common ground? How can we find that thing that connects us all? So when did it shift for you to start speaking out? I'm assuming that you didn't have the following that you've had for as long as you've had, right? For as long as you've been a sheriff, or maybe you have, I'm not sure. But when did it become a moment that like, I need to speak out. I need to be at the front lines of this?
So it actually started, I got into this profession late in life. I never thought about being a cop. I was a businessman, a marketing guy. I had other jobs. When I was 33, a neighbor asked me to do a ride along. I went on the ride along and I came home that morning and told my wife, I'm hooked. I'm gonna be a cop. Had 5 kids at the time. So it was kind of she actually liked it because we would insurance, we were self-employed. It's hard to have insurance. So we were going to have insurance, steady pay. That was the first time I ever felt like what it was like to have pay when you were on vacation. Before yeah. When you're self-employed, you go on vacation, you don't make any money. And so there was a lot of good that came with it. And I just fell in love with the profession. And about 6-7 years into it, when I was working at the Salt River Indian Maricopa Indian community, I was just standing there one day and I just said to the guys I was working with on the gang unit, I said, you know what? I'm going to run for sheriff. And it was really it was during the Obama days, and I could just see the direction the country was heading. I could see the rising of Hillary Clinton, other bad politicians, people that did not have America's best interests in mind. And I decided, instead of just bitching about it, that I was going to be part of the solution. So I started making changes in my profession, my career. I came here to the county. I took a $25,000 pay cut. Had to start a business to be able to keep myself afloat because of the change. And I spent my time here in the county until it was time to leave so that I could run for sheriff. So, I made a lot of sacrifices. It took 6 years from the time I made the decision to be a vocal piece, to stand up for freedom and to fight for it, from the time I got into office. And then, fortunately, Donald Trump won that night as well. And so, he gave us a reprieve, a stay of execution. And that gave me 4 years to get my feet underneath me and really kind of solidify who I was as a sheriff, as an American, as a man. And now I feel blessed to have been prepared for this time, to be able to stand up for what I love and believe, and that's God, family, and freedom.
I would love to know your experience with it so far, with being so outspoken. Have you gotten any pushback from coworkers, from other police organizations, not just the sheriff's department?
I know this is going to sound really bad, but I really don't care. It
doesn't sound bad. That's good.
I just walk into places and I'm comfortable. I'm confident in what I believe in, that it's the truth. Like, for me, it's my core values. I'm not saying it needs to be yours, but these are mine. And I'm not going to apologize for it. And I'm not going to be made to feel less because I feel different than you, because this is what I love. I think this is what the country was founded on. And so when I go to these places, I get that other people may not agree with me, but you know what? I smile. I'm friendly to everybody. And I think people respect the fact that I stand up for what I believe, whether they agree with me or not. We're hungry for authenticity in this world. It's one of the things I tell kids: be authentic, be you. So yeah, that's it. I don't really care what they think. I stand up for what's right. If I'm the only one left, then I'm the only one left. It is what it is.
I love it. And that's the difference, in my opinion, of the people that chose fear as opposed to choosing love and choosing freedom, is this confidence, right? This is just like, taking the power back of choice and decision making and like discernment and all of these things that in my opinion, we've been indoctrinated to let go of and not have, and give it to daddy government. So with 2020 and 2021, the way that it has been, when did it, through that process, when did it become really personal for you? Like, when did it shake you enough that you go, whoa, this is different than any other time in history?
I could see the COVID situation coming. I was going to New York, traveling back and forth. I was kind of watching it. And when it started to come about, I told my chiefs, I was like, this is a bunch of BS, man. This is a Trojan horse. And I'm not saying that COVID doesn't exist, but it's not what they say it is. The statistics don't support that, and it never really has. I mean, there was a lot of uncertainty in the beginning, and they were using that to instill fear. What's crazy though is we're past that. We have almost 2 years of statistics to rely on, yet Americans are still afraid, and it's still mind-boggling to me. So I could see it for what it was. I could see it as a tool for people to push a political agenda. And I'm a historian. I understand that for evil to get its foothold in you, you just need to instill fear on the people. And so I really work hard to try to calm people and say, look, don't be afraid. You know, first of all, every one of us are going to die. There's not a single person that's going to get out of this world alive. So you may as well live and die as a free man, as opposed to giving it all up for a little bit of extra security. Maybe you live a few months longer. I don't know. When it's your time, it's your time. So yeah, I started seeing that, and that really solidified it in me to say, look, I need to be a voice now more than ever for freedom. And that's what it boils down to. People don't like my stances sometimes. But when I have a chance to explain it to them, like, look, I'm not telling you not to wear a mask. I'm not telling you not to get the vaccine. Although now I'm a little bit more dubious because the government has pushed it so hard. But it's about freedom. It's about your ability to choose. I don't want you to do drugs either, but I don't stand at your doorway and walk around with you in your house. And every time you go to use drugs, I knock it out of your hand. I don't do that. Why? Because you still have freedom. You have the freedom to choose. Even if it's breaking the law, you still have that right.
Ooh, I love that you said that last part, bodily autonomy. I've struggled recently with understanding the law, right? Understanding what is right, what is wrong. I even have many arguments with my partner about that, because there are certain layers to this system that you'd say, oh, that's illegal, that's legal. And then there's like lawful, that is unlawful. And I'm learning that there's a difference now. So what's your perspective on that, and what is legal and what is lawful?
That's a great way to put it, because there are certain laws and certain things that are legal and certain things that are lawful. Like I have a very deep perspective to that. I want my guys to do what's right. I tell my guys all the time, look, guys, in the end, if you can tell me what you did was right, and I'll give you an example. I pull a mom over. The law used to be that if she was driving on a suspended license, then you had to tow her vehicle. That was the law. You shall. And I think that there's a lot of Americans that probably would agree when you say, I got a mom with 5 kids. I'm not going to leave her on the side of the road here because the law says I shall tow her vehicle. And so you've got to be able to give your guys the freedom and the flexibility to do what's right. What's right doesn't always coincide with what's lawful or legal. It's about doing what's right. And I think it's important to people, and I try to make this distinction. Just because people pass a mandate or an order, that is not a law. People need to understand that distinction. And until there is a law passed, we're going to go off of the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution, and we have the Declaration of Independence, which guaranteed that the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
I love it. In my mind, I even simplified it even more, that legal is like what man created and lawful is what God created.
I love that. That is that is fantastic. I'm going to steal that from you.
Oh, take it. Yeah. I had to personally go through a lot of my own growth and understanding legalese, understanding, the way that bills get put into place and how they get put. I wasn't political at all until 2020. So if anything, this whole thing that they're trying to do made it worse, because it's like, oh, you just woke up a bunch of people who were doing their own thing, they're having their life, and now they're really focused on this now.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and so I had a question. For a person that's in law enforcement, you have a certain level, you have like an oath, I'm assuming, that you take, right? When you start that process of protecting humans and protecting God's lawful law of the land. So, we say the word patriotism. I'm actually even wearing this shirt that says patriot.
I love it.
And I've change my perspective of it. I've changed my perspective of being patriotic, right? I was born in Brazil. I grew up in the US since I was 8. So I have a lot more, growth in the US. But to you, how did it change for you, or did it change, to being patriotic? What does it mean to you?
I've always been very patriotic. We love America. We love the flag. We feel it to our core. I've always understood the how important freedom is, and that America is the last place on earth that protects that freedom. I love the Constitution. And you talked about oaths. It's funny because the Politico and a few other places are starting to do articles on me and other sheriffs saying they're one of these constitutional sheriffs, constitutional conservatives. And I want to say, and I've said to them, I'm like, what is it where are all the other elected officials? Because I took the exact same oath that they did, which said that I would support and defend the Constitution, protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's the crux of the oath that we take as elected officials. So to be labeled as a constitutional sheriff or constitutional conservative, for me, is a feather in my cap. But it also makes me wonder, where did we go wrong to where other elected officials are not being held to that standard? Every elected official should be a constitutional elected official. That should mean they should be a constitutional senator, a constitutional, because that is the main thing we swore an oath to as elected officials. Such
an important thing to point out, because gosh, where did that split happen? Where did people, even in all of the industries, not just, the police departments, but in the medical industry, all the oaths that they took, the Hippocratic Oath. So there's all these things, all these oaths that were taken to protect humanity. And it's as if that people are forgetting it, or they're running away from shame because that's not the mainstream way. Whatever it is, it's weird.
Yeah. And as a society, we have glorified deception. We've made deceit okay. Many states have laws against adultery, for example. But that you don't ever see people getting charged with that. It's okay for people to be a womanizer or to go out with many men. Our moral line has been blurred, and then our business line. It's okay. A lot of the people on the far left believe that the ends justify the means, so they can cheat or lie as long as it meets what they deem as being correct and right. And that's a dangerous place to be. And we've watched as our elected officials have done it. And here's the problem. We keep electing those same people to go back to Washington to represent us. So we're basically saying, we're okay with you lying and deceiving us and not being a person of your word, because we just keep voting them in. So that's how they interpret it. So it's really kind of our fault. And until we put that back in check and say, look, if you don't do your job and if you're not honest in the way you do it, then we're gonna find somebody else that will do it. I'll tell you, the fix is, and this is a whole different conversation. You put in term limits, you fix the majority of the problems we have in this country. As long as we allow these idiots to stay in office for so long, then they're basically just the prince of fools. We're the fools. They're the princes of fools.
100%. And I'm so glad you pointed that out, because they've created a system that's glamorized the top, right? Glamorized the presidency and that structure, the executive branch, and completely took all of our awareness away from the local level. Right. And then you have, like you mentioned, you have all these officials on local levels. I say local levels like state down, that are career politicians that are just, and you're right in saying, I never thought about it this way. On their side, they're like, I'm going to go do this and push this certain ideology. Let's see what happens. And then they're like, they get voted in. They're like, oh, cool. And then they get voted in again. And they're like, wow, I must be doing something right. I'm going to keep going. And so whether they're deciding or not, whether the strings are being pulled from above them, that individual at that level believes in it. He believes wholeheartedly that what he's doing is good or is right, because it seems as though the people are wanting more.
And I've watched it as politicians surround themselves with more and more insulation. And whether it's them or whether it's people that are working for them, they insulate those people. I see it all the time because I deal with congressmen, senators, all these people. Even the president, you can't get close to him. He's insulated completely by the people that are his cabinet members and surround him. So they tell him, hey, Otto, you're doing a great job. Everybody loves you. And they are completely disillusioned many times. Now, some of them are just rotten to the core, and they do what's wrong because they have bad intentions. And so you have a little bit of everything going on. But I would say the majority of it is they are completely out of touch, and they're being misled by their own people to believe that the people are happy with the job that they're doing. And by reelecting them, that only solidifies it for them. But yeah, we're lost. We're lost as a country. We're lost, especially, and that starts in Washington. They're setting the direction, and we're lost.
Wow. This brings up a good question for me. With all these people on every level, the ones that are on a local level, the police officers that are doing pretty much illegal things like getting someone and you don't have your passport card. You got to go over here now. You see this in other countries. I'm seeing a little bit of here in the US where you have these individuals making choices that are not lawful. And then also on the higher levels, them creating these mandates and doing all these policies that are totally crimes against humanity. So from your perspective, do you see us moving? Do you see the start of us bringing justice to these people? Do you see us moving towards that direction at all now, or is it still something that might come in the future?
No, I do believe the pendulum is beginning to come back. The question is, how hard will the people who fought to get the pendulum up there, how hard will they fight to keep it there? I think we still have darker days ahead of us. However, I do believe that the pendulum is starting to come back. I have seen the awakening in the American people. The media still has enough influence, even though they're crashing and burning. The mainstream media still has enough influence to deceive a lot of people. There's a poem by Rudyard Kipling. It's a great poem, but called If. And it says, if you can see your words twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools. And, we still have knaves twisting the words to make a trap for the people, and the people that are buying into this stuff, hook, line, and sinker, and then like passionately defending lies and misinformation. And so it's kind of sad to watch, but I think we're getting to where the people are seeing the media for what it is. They clearly see this presidency for what it is. I mean, I think I saw a poll that said 22% of people would want to see Joe Biden run again. That's only 22%, and only 12% would want to see Kamala. I'm surprised it's even still that high, but that goes to show you how bad they're doing, and how the American people are seeing through it, and they just continue to push down the wrong path. So it's crazy to watch. But long answer to your question, I think we are getting ready to come back to this. The pendulum's coming back, but we just have a few more. We got a little bit harder times coming up.
Thank you for that answer. I hope I'm there, I'm watching, and it's sometimes it gets a little, you lose that strength of hope because you never see that. You never see the big names get put away, but it's different. It does feel different this time around where things they're taking a little slower to progress, but I can see that it's death by 1,000 stabs, right? Death by 1,000 cuts.
Amen. Yeah.
So we're getting there.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people about freedom. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking about that earlier when you first started, is that people think that freedom is going to just be taken away in one chop. And it's not. It's death by 1,000 cuts, which is why it's important to stand up against mask mandates, vaccine mandates, and so many other things, because those are the 1,000 cuts. Although some of those cuts are a little bit deeper and longer, but there is still death by 1,000 cuts. So I love that analogy. Thank you for bringing it up.
So to have a more personal question, how do you prepare for this? Like, how are you and your family? Are you married?
I am. I'm married 27 years, 5 kids.
Whoa, 5 kids. I love it. What are the ages?
25 is my oldest, 18 is my youngest. So luckily they're a little bit older.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it's a little easier to navigate this world with older adults or older kids. How is your family preparing for all this on every level? Let's say on a physical, on a metaphysical, on financial. What would you recommend for those that are a part of this and are aware to move forward in this reality?
Get prepared. I mean, that's, I may not be the perfect parent, but I can tell you all my kids love and appreciate America about as much as I do. So we've raised some diehard constitutional conservatives that understand it. This job has definitely taken its toll on my family. Look, on a personal level, we've had some issues come up that have been hard to deal with. And I would say that they're probably a result of the fact that I'm not always home, that I've had to spend so much time campaigning, being sheriff, so much time away from the family. And it took a toll on my kids who were teenagers through those years. My one son kind of got into a little bit of trouble, had some personal issues. He's doing good now, but he's got some price that he's got to pay. And unfortunately, they drug him through the media unmercilessly. And it was all because of who he was, because he was my son. And they thought it was a way they could get at me. And, he said to me, he's like, Dad, I didn't ask to be the sheriff's son. And he's right. He's not in politics, but your family pays a price for it. So I always tell people, Look, we need people to do it. We need the way this business is. It's ugly. It's nasty. And it deters a lot of good people from running, but we still need good people to run. We still need people that are willing to make the sacrifice, to take the hits in the family, to take the hits personally. I've had things said about me that are not true and are awful. And, it's hard to get used to. It's hard to learn how to deal with that, to create a thick skin, but yet still be a man of the people. It's a hard balance to find. So no, it's not easy. And when I tell people, I'm very honest up front. Look, I appreciate you doing this, but it's not going to be easy. And I'm telling you up front, but you can survive it. It's better that you not know. People always ask me, if you knew what you knew now, would you run? Probably not. I would like to think that I was strong enough as a patriot to run, but that's the way God designs it. He doesn't want you to know, because if you knew, you wouldn't do it. So it's better just to find out when you get to the top of the summit how hard it is.
That's always the best. And that's why I like you have those sayings like just push through it, breathe through it. Because once you get to the other side, you can look back and go, whoa, I did that. And
set big goals. I would, anybody listening to this, please go watch a show on Netflix right now called 14 Peaks. Awesome show. It's about a guy who climbs he sets out to climb 14 8,000 meter mountains in 7 months. The quickest anybody had ever done it was 7 years. And he was talking about doing it in 7 months. But there was one part of it, there's a few parts where they're great life lessons, but there's one where this guy from the United States had failed 8 times at trying to climb one mountain. He had set out to climb one of the 8,000 summit mountains, and he had failed 8 times. And so this guy comes along from Nepal. He's like, hey, man, I got to climb this mountain. I got to do it today. And he shows up, and this other guy's like, man, I've tried 8 times. And basically, this guy leads the way. And finally, this guy who had failed 8 times finally gets to the top. And I told my wife, I said, you know why he failed? Because he set his goal to only climb one mountain. And he failed 8 times because once he climbed it, he would have lost his purpose in life. Where the other guy had set the goal to climb 14. And because he had such a lofty goal, climbing one mountain wasn't going to stop him. And so it was a life lesson. So set high goals, put yourself way past what you think, because by doing that, you'll achieve things that you never thought you would have.
Wow. Great analogy. I love that. That was a great example of you are your own limitation.
Yeah, that's it.
Because if the perception of obstacles makes all the difference on your ability to move through it or be stopped by it. So thank you for that. That was a great way of laying it down. This reality has been difficult in the last year for sure, especially since the beginning of this 2021 when they rolled out the whats. I don't even want to say the name because AI is listening and they will suppress all of this.
Yeah.
So the what, as in the unicorn, the in the arm. So have you had any personal obstacles in your own life with your family, with friends that have gotten it and there has been some tension, some disagreement, some, whatever, some arguments that you needed to go through? And if you did, do you have any advice for those that are going through similar?
No, I haven't had a lot of arguments because people know exactly where I stand on it. I got it early on. I went to the White House I had an event where I had like 600 people in at the end of May of right at the beginning of June of 2020. So it was still like people like, oh, you got to wear a mask. You can't do any events. Well, I had this event, like 600 people show up to pick up yard signs for my campaign. And the next day, that was a Saturday. Sunday, I'm like, I feel a little run down, but that's normal. When you do a big event, your energy's up. It can take a day or two to kind of really get through it. And so Monday comes around. Oh, Sunday, they call me and they're like, hey, will you come to the White House? President Trump wants to have you in the Rose Garden to sign this bill. And so I'm like, heck yeah, I want to go. So Monday comes. I leave Monday night. I get in Tuesday. I'm feeling a little run down, but I'm just like, man, that event really kicked my butt. Not real sick, just run down. I get to the White House. They take my temperature. I go in. They do a test on my nose. And they're like, hey, if you don't hear from us in 10 minutes, then you're good. Like 7 minutes later, I get a 202 number call my phone. I answer like, hey, Sheriff, are you still here? And I'm like, yeah, you got to come back downstairs. You have COVID. I'm like, what? And, at this point, no, I didn't know anybody who had gotten COVID. So It was just kind of still people talking about it, but I didn't really actually know anybody.
Yeah.
So I go back downstairs, they test me again, and I know my day's done. And sure enough, I got COVID. So I go get a rental car and I drive home because I know that the media is going to find out. And if they find out, they're going to crucify me if I fly home. So I had to drive home 36 hours. I always say that the White House, once they tested me the second time, they took me out the back like a 2-bit whore. They put me on the back street. I went straight to the airport, got it, drove home, and took me 36 hours. And the media found out. And let me tell you, the media and the haters out there in the world crucified me. I was on the front page of Yahoo News, People Magazine. It was in Africa. The sheriff who defies governor's orders gets COVID. I mean, the nastiness of the people who claim to be so compassionate about other people, the nastiness from those people, you just can't even believe it. And so we had a tough time there. I didn't, because I was like, man, all you people are doing is solidifying my will power to fight for freedom and for what's right. So other than that, I mean, I had one lady, I'll tell you this one quick story. I was in my post office, and it was probably like July of last year. And she's in there, and I'm not wearing a mask, and she is. And it's just glaring at me. And finally, she says to me, she's like, you're that no mask wearing sheriff, aren't you? I said, well, I'm the sheriff who chooses not to wear a mask, if that's what you're asking. And she goes, you know what? My husband and I just think it's so disrespectful that you don't wear a mask. I said, you know what I find disrespectful? The fact that you think that you can challenge me like this in public. I said, who do you think you are? I said, what makes you morally superior to me? What makes you more right than me? How dare you think that you can come in here and challenge me about not wearing a mask? I said, I didn't bother you about wearing a mask. Why would you think it's okay to bother me about not wearing a mask? I said, you want to talk about disrespectful? That's disrespectful. And she looked at me and she just went, you know what? You're right.
Wow.
And my wife like slinked over in the corner. My wife's like shuffling papers. If she could have got any smaller in the corner, she would have. I said, look, ma'am, nobody likes what we're going through, but challenging each other is not only is it inappropriate, it's borderline illegal. And I said, it's not okay. And what we need to do now more than ever is respect one another and respect our personal decisions as to how we're going to live our lives. And I think that's most important. And so we had a healthy conversation. And in the end, she said, hey, look, I want to thank you for respectfully putting me in my place. But she did. She ran into a buzzsaw that day. That's for sure.
A very loving buzzsaw, but still a buzzsaw. Wow, that's amazing. I've had my own like experiences, but I never ran into someone that was so nice in responding or accepting of that information. But that's amazing. That actually brings me, gives me hope for humanity a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Me too.
Yeah. Wow. I love hearing about your experiences with this, and just from from the legal side. I feel like you have a perspective that's unique on that side that most people don't have, which is a little distorted on a lot of levels. And so I appreciate you sharing that level of it.
It's because there's so much misinformation. For example, I'm going to tell you the airport. Go to the airport. Every 10 minutes, if not more, they'll say, it is federal law that you need to. No, it's not. It is not a federal law that you wear a mask in the airport. It is a mandate and an order. It is not a law. And and that is misinformation. And they're just repeating it over and over and over. I don't wear a mask when I go to the airport. I do wear a mask when I get on the plane because I've accepted that. That's a business. I've accepted that. That's what they're asking me to do as a business. That's what I'll do. But when they put out that misinformation that it's federal law that you have to wear a mask, that's not true. It is a mandate and an order. Congress has not passed any laws. That is what, and I know we're getting off topic. I just want to say real quick, that is one of the dangerous places we're getting in this country. The founding fathers set this up with three branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial. And those branches work together to keep each other in check. But what's happening now is you're seeing the executive branch take over and become the judicial branch and the legislative branch. They're passing mandates and orders without going through the proper channels of legislation, which is your Congress and Senate. They are finding people guilty of things. They're making assumptions like the Rittenhouse thing, how they basically said he was guilty without letting the judicial process play out. So what we're seeing, and it even has happened on a local level, and now you're seeing where they want to pass laws where a government bureaucracy, a department of the government, has to approve any law that any state wants to pass. Do you understand how unconstitutional and how dangerous that is for our republic, where you have just the executive branch making all the decisions? And that's where you end up with a dictatorship, socialism, or communism. So anybody listening today, the founding fathers set it up for the three branches of government for a reason. And now that you've heard me say it, go watch and see how much the executive branch is trying to take over everything. And even judicial. The judicial branch is trying to pass laws from the bench. Mm-hmm. You know, they're trying to pass case law because of their how they view things politically. They'll pass case law as if it's, and they know that it's going to hold true as if it were a law, and it's not. Case law is not a law. It's just case law. So anyway, that's all. You got me off on a tangent.
So are we going into Red Dawn? So I should be stockpiling weapons and like to protect myself? Like with everything that you've experienced moving forward, like what do we do?
You should definitely have guns. Look, that's your Second Amendment right. The founding fathers weren't stupid. They had a lot of foresight into what they had dealt with and what we as in the future would deal with. Also, you should have food. I think what you're seeing, it's funny because Americans are watching as these cargo ships are sitting out in the ocean, as stores are not having as much food, as inflation went up 6%. They were trying to lie to us and tell us it was going to go up 2%. Then they got caught on it and they're like, maybe 4%. It went up over 6%. I lived in Argentina and I saw what inflation does, where you go in the morning to buy your bread, and by the time you go back in the afternoon, the bread is, increased in price, sometimes doubled in price. You don't get paid more. So having a storage of food is not only responsible, it is sound at this time. And I hope that we don't ever need it. But should inflation continue to rise, which I believe it is because of reckless government spending, you're going to wish you had that food. So it doesn't mean you should fall on the stores and buy everything they have, but have a good 30-day supply of food, if not a year, if you can.
I love this. And it's a good little segue to a conversation that I'm trying to include more in my interviews, which is to talk about crypto. So I want to know your perspective of it. Have you looked into it? Have you done any research or what's your perspective on crypto?
So about 3 years ago, I got into crypto big time. I mean, I wouldn't say that I didn't have a lot of money. I was, busy campaigning. So I put about $1,600 into Binance, right? Okay. So then I lost my dang Binance account, and I had Ripple, I had Tron, I had some other stuff that I thought would be good, and I lost it. And so recently I was on vacation in St. Lucia, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to log on to my Binance account now that I'm outside the country. And I'd been meaning to get a VPN to try it. And I logged on, and I had $5,000 worth of stuff in there now. So yeah, I'm a crypto guy. Like, I made money on Dogecoin. I think that I'm understanding cryptos more and more. There's a guy an article, Tucker had a guy on that's like the king of, really, you probably know who
Pump?
it is.
Was it Pump?
No, I think it was somebody else. Anyway, he really broke it down for Tucker and explained it in a way that really makes crypto make sense. The fact that the government doesn't like crypto should tell you that you should want crypto. Yes. Because you know what they always say, the government, the biggest thieves, they hate competition, the government, if they don't like something, it's probably good for you.
Yeah. And that, I bring it up because that's what I do. I'm a crypto coach and I teach, I'm a mentor. I've been in the space since 2012. So I love talking about it and like what the possibilities are. And I always try to remind people is that this is not just for the financial industry. This is for every industry that's centralized, that requires transactions to function. So anything that requires a transaction, you can incorporate crypto into it.
I love it. And when I found out you were a crypto coach, I was like, ooh, I got to ask him about getting my Binance stuff out of Binance now and into a wallet that is a good wallet, because Binance has their own little, what is it called?
BNB?
EP something, or BP 2.0 or 20 or something.
BEP2. BEP2.
Yeah, BEP2.
It's their own chain. Yeah.
So I can't transfer that to Coinbase because Coinbase doesn't take it and it will get lost. So before I lose it again, I want to make sure I know exactly how to get it.
Make sure you take my free course. I have a free course. It's 90 minutes and it goes into all those little details of how to recognize the different chains and transfer it to a cold wallet. So that's what you want to do. You want to take it off the exchange, which is a hot wallet. You actually don't own that crypto yet. When you transfer it to a cold wallet, then you own the private keys, which then you own the crypto.
Yeah.
So take a look at it.
I kicked myself though, because when I was getting into it, it was when, I would say Bitcoin, I think, was about 16,000. It went up to about 19,000. And then it came all the way back down to like
3,500
or 4,000 probably. And I knew better, but I didn't have the money at the time. I don't make that much money as a sheriff, not as much as people think. And I should have bought some. I should have bought some more Bitcoin because I knew it'd go back up. Did I know it'd go back up to like 60,000? No, but I don't know if it's gotten that high, but
so it's still early. No, it got up to like 70. It touched 70,000 about a month or so ago. But yeah, I got in when Bitcoin was $250, and Ethereum, which is number 2 now, was $6. So see, don't feel that the money you're putting in is not a lot. It's not a lot. $150. Okay, $150 4 years ago into Ethereum, you'd have a little over $150,000 right now.
I know. And that's the mistake
it's still,
I made.
Well, so we're still early. We're still very, very early. I mean, we're only worth, the industry in and of itself is only worth a little over $1 trillion. Just in bonds, we have more than $20 trillion in government bonds that are sitting there that can flow into this. And the fact that, like you mentioned, of the inflation rate, we're about to go into hyperinflation. So the dollar, I mean, the whole thing is about to collapse. So when you have, now it's creating a power vacuum. When that system collapses, it's going to be a power vacuum of that currency, of the dollar. And where's the biggest vacuum right now? It's Bitcoin. It's crypto.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not stocks. It's not commodities. It's not gold. It's not any of that. You should diversify into those, but the biggest flow of money into something else, as opposed to the current fiat system, is crypto.
Well, I like it. So the long answer to your original question is, I like it.
I love it. And I'm glad that
I'm a risk guy.
Like it.
Like, I love risk.
Yeah, me too.
So I like the fact that you can put $100, $150 and have $150,000 4 years later. I like that. It's worth jeopardizing that $150 for me.
Yep.
I play the roulette at the casinos if I do gamble, I play roulette because I think roulette has the biggest gains to be made.
It's actually the when it comes to chance, yeah, the chances on the roulette table are the highest. It's like 50-50 basically. But crypto's higher. It's actually better than the betting tables.
I know.
Because you have a protocol. It's a protocol that's executing a program. It's not like human beings that are deciding. But anyway.
Well, I'm going to watch your crypto program because I got to get more into it.
Yeah, definitely do. I have, so the crypto, the free course is 90 minutes, and then there's a paid course, and that's 7 hours. And I go into like passive income options. There's DeFi, which is decentralized finance, and it has to do with like peer-to-peer banking. So we eliminate the bank, and then I do a lending. I can lend you money, and you pay me through a smart contract. So I don't have to trust you to make it work. It's really cool.
I like that.
So yeah, so there's a lot of things that are happening now in that space, and I mention it now a lot because, in my opinion, it's the first time ever that we have a practical way of disconnecting from those systems, where we can actually function outside of those systems in every way imaginable: finances, education, medical industry, the politics, like, a voting system that's blockchain based, that's open source and transparent, and everybody can see the results. Imagine that. So that world to me is the beginning steps of creating this new reality, this new paradigm that's not part of that,
I agree.
Divisive, toxic, just angry system that we've all been born into. So yeah, Sheriff, thank you so much for this connection. It was just so in life, just so many things that I wasn't aware of from that side that you made aware of for me. And again, I'm super grateful for your time and your energy and what you're doing for this movement and moving forward. So I want to leave the last word. I always like to leave the last word to the interviewee. If you have something you want to plug or advice or something you want to leave everyone with.
Yeah, quick plug. I have my book, American Sheriff: Traditional Values in a Modern World. You can get that at americansheriff.com. You can also get it at my wife's site, which is sheriffswife.com. She wrote a book called The Sheriff's Wife: Holding It All Together Behind the Scenes in Politics, which we go into a lot of what you talked about, what the toll is and how life has changed for us. And then Live PD was taken off the air. Cops was taken off the air. So we started something called the American Sheriff Network. Hopefully people will go support us there. We're telling real sheriffs, real stories. We're putting you back in the front seat of the cars, and we're showcasing law enforcement in a different light. We're showing the positive light, but we're also showing you exactly what we go through. So please check those out. And on Instagram, American Sheriff. On Facebook, Sheriff Lamb. And even though I don't use Twitter, Twitter is Sheriff Lamb 1. So please go check it out. Come support us. And in the end, you mentioned something real briefly, and I talked to kids at school the other day. We need to get back to a place where we're okay with people being different and thinking different than us. What makes America so beautiful is the fact that we are different cultural backgrounds, different skin color, different religious backgrounds. All of these things are what makes America beautiful. And we need to accept the fact that we are different. And that's what makes this world go around. And that's what makes us achieve the country we've achieved thus far, is because we're different. So be tolerant of one another, learn to respect one another for our individual desires and freedoms. And remember, we still live in the greatest country in the world. This is a global problem. If we lose America, the world loses. And on a global level, they understand how important America is to the rest of the world. Everybody's watching us. Now's the time to step up, be a voice for freedom, be a voice for America, and don't be afraid to fight for it, because we've got to hold on to it for not just our own sake, but for the world's sake. And as far as your sheriffs, we are your last line of defense. And I can tell you, as a sheriff, we're going to continue to fight for the people. You can also check out protectamericanow.com. It's a 501c4 I have, where we fight for standing up for the rule of law, against bad policies, and for the Constitution and the people's constitutional rights. So in the end, when I leave this world, I hope that people will say that Sheriff Lamb fought valiantly for God, family, freedom, and America. and he was a true patriot. So hopefully that's what people will say. I just thank you, Otto, for having me on the show today. Let me talk to your listeners, and I appreciate it more than you know.
Thank you, Sheriff Lamb. Like those words were so beautiful, and I'm so grateful for you. And you definitely have a fan right here. I'm just in full support of everything you're doing. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless. Have a good day. Wow. What an amazing interview with Sheriff Mark Lamb. I recorded this outro post him getting celebrated and called out by Donald J. Trump at a rally in Arizona, in Phoenix. And for that, I'm super grateful for being connected with Sheriff Mark Lamb. He has been just an amazing voice in this reality, like we talked about in the episode. Please, if you guys have more information that you want to know about crypto, if you want to dive deeper into the crypto space and try to understand it, unlike Mark, who had a little bit of difficulty in getting a hold of it, dive deep into my crypto course. You can check it out on my website. It's otogomes.live/free-training, or you can just go to my website and check it out. And if you want to dive deeper and learn more about the space and how you can make passive income and tap into these decentralized finance options that are peer-to-peer, you can check out my 7.5-hour paid course, Crypto Made Easy. And I'm giving away 10% off. If you go to otogomes.live/easy, you'll get 10% off right there. Again, this episode with Mark was amazing. Sheriff Lamb is just an astonishing individual, and I can't wait to reconnect with him and share more with you guys. Thank you guys for joining me, and make sure to gamify your abundance. Love you guys. Bye.